Well, if you're receiving this message, you're also receiving a distress signal from myself, Charles Mackenzie, and I represent Infected Blood Australia. Our situation is so dire. We've got tens of thousands of Australians who were infected with viruses as a result of contaminated blood transfusions and infusions in the decades before the 2000s, but we can't get any help. We can't get any answers. We can't even get our public broadcaster, the one that we pay taxes for, the ABC, over the last 30 years to investigate. We've had victims write to them numerous times. They simply refuse. The other mainstream media won't run us because, their advertisers don't want this subject matter. And also at the moment, what with a particular virus having captured the media's attention, and what with the rollout being so important to mainstream media and to pharmaceutical companies and the government, we don't get a look in. And so everybody's in on it down here. We know that no help's coming. As some of you might know, there's a major inquiry happening in the United Kingdom. It's their largest ever legal inquiry called the Infected Blood Inquiry. The British are able to investigate, but in Australia, we can't even talk about it. I was nearly jailed in 2003 for talking about contaminated blood. And I've had various things happen to me. I've been threatened. There's been all sorts. I've been told there's also been a very real risk to my life for even doing this video today, talking about the blood products company CSL, Australia's first $100 billion company, or talking ironically about the humanitarian agency, the Australian Red Cross. Why on earth they would want to see people like me vilified, harmed or hurt for talking about the contaminated blood scandal, only they will know. Eventually we'll all know though, because no matter what happens, we will find the truth one day. It's quite clear that something terrible has happened down here in Australia. Everybody's in on it. Whether it be the Haemophilia Foundation of Australia. This is an organisation that's supposed to represent the best interests with people with the bleeding disorder haemophilia. They've never once in 30 years called for a judicial inquiry or any kind of legal investigation into 1,400 haemophilia deaths as a result of contaminated blood infusions. Doesn't that strike anyone as odd? They collected money to represent people with bleeding disorders, and 1,400 of their members, they've only got a couple thousand people. Only a couple thousand haemophiliacs in the country at the time. 1,400 of them died, and their own union, their own charity, doesn't even call for a legal investigation. And then you find out that the company that made the blood products that killed the haemophiliacs sponsors that foundation. Everybody's in on it down here. The taxpayer-funded Hepatitis Australia, Hepatitis New South Wales, they're supposed to represent the best interests, or Hepatitis Victoria, all the state chapters are supposed to represent the best interests of people with hepatitis. Do they ever call for a legal investigation into how tens of thousands of people ended up with hepatitis through blood transfusions? No, they're in on it. They lobby against contaminated blood victims getting any kind of help. So where have people like us got to go? Oh, we've got nowhere to go in Australia. And as I say, I've got nowhere to go. I'm bloody surrounded. I've got not one media. I've got not one politician. I've got no one who will admit to having any interest or care about Australia's deadliest medical scandal. The only thing I can do is make videos like this while I'm alive. What are you going to do about Australia? What are you going to do about where we're in? What are we going to do? We can't even run or talk about our deadliest medical scandal. What happens if something goes wrong with this mass rollout? It's going wrong already for some people. There's people who've died, and apparently that's normal. That's a normal response, that people will die with these things. Okay, what are we going to do about it? Are we going to put victims and their families in silence for 30 years? We can't talk about it. Are we not going to allow people like myself who might have had been injured by a medical product, are we not going to allow them to have a conversation? Or are we going to try and jail them? This is where we're headed in Australia. This is a distress beacon for you internationally. For God's sake, help us. For the love of decency, help us. We're absolutely desperate down here. We were given tainted blood. I was a kid. I went into hospital. I was given tainted blood. All I did was ask questions. And I've been asking questions. I'm nearly 50 now. I'm going grey. I started as a child. This is insanity. Someone has got to have guts for Australia. Someone has got to understand that we have rights too, okay? This is a distress beacon. Please help us. Please. Thank you. Charles Mackenzie.